Great to hear that. I'm Nancy Rakoff. I'm privileged to be the membership coordinator of this very caring and supportive UU Church of Peoria. This morning, we're coming to you live from the sanctuary, but we know there are people participating at home or wherever they feel safe and comfortable. Because of the COVID metrics, we're still taking precautions, of course, but you may recognize this. We give thanks. We give thanks for being here. We give thanks for being here together. Our church is of the liberal religious tradition and was founded in 1843. In essence, we're a big tent where all are welcome. We respect each other's beliefs and seek to grow together in our knowledge and understanding. Our physical church home is on land that was once occupied by the Peoria Nation, who created their own home, their lives, and their cultures right here. We honor them. For those present in the sanctuary, I'd like to draw your attention to the green insert in the order of service. There's a lot of things that can be done for the church that can help you connect with other people at the same time. And I would like you to take consideration of this. There are also lots of these opportunities on sign-up sheets out on the connections table in the foyer. After the service, please join us for coffee hour in one of two ways. If you're physically present or come here after participating on Zoom, come to the patio. We have a great time, and we sometimes stay a long time out there. Or you can stay on this Zoom link and participate in Zoom coffee hour. We are so happy that you decided to spend this time with us. Welcome.
Welcome. I'm the Reverend Jennifer Innis. It is my great joy to serve as the minister with this congregation in all the ways that we can, in person, online, email, you might even call me. Wow. Wow. Our mission includes promoting the freedom of the human spirit, extending love and welcome to all, growing into the best we can be, and being part of healing the world. Living that mission is made possible by the gifts of members and friends. We aren't yet passing the plate, but financial donations can be left in the donation plates at the back of the sanctuary. The link for online donations is on the Zoom chat and on Facebook as well. And as always, sending a check in the mail is very effective any day of the week. Thank you for your gifts. Every contribution of time, skill, and money, it adds up. With such generosity, when that comes together, the community and our larger purpose is refreshed, emboldened, and we are able to move into the future. Thank you. This month is the time for signing up for our covenant groups. These are small groups of people who meet about twice per month. The group leader or leaders provide topics and readings, and people have a chance to explore and reflect together. And today's person who is going to talk about our covenant groups, add a little bit more to that, is Sarah Allen, one of our covenant group speakers.
Good morning. Thank you for listening to me for a couple minutes talk about covenant circles. They're one of my favorite subjects in the church. What do we do in covenant circles if you haven't belonged? Maybe you don't know. Maybe you think 8 people just get together and sit in silence for 2 hours, but it's anything but that. But I have to say, what we mostly do is we listen. If there's 8 people in a covenant circle, which is about the typical amount of people you would have, you're going to spend 7/8 of your time listening to other people. But the thing is, you're not going to have to worry about judging or thinking of a response or telling them what to do, because we don't do any of those things. We just listen to each other. And listening can be a joyful experience. Just listening without having to come up with an answer, without having to come up with some brilliant retort. Just being able to listen to each other is a wonderful thing. And when it comes your turn to speak, it's equally wonderful to know that people are going to listen to you with their hearts and that they're going to be sympathizing with you and not judging you, but just thinking about understanding you better and learning to know you better. So covenant circles are a way to forge very, very deep relationships, very, very deep friendships, maybe the deepest that you will find in the church. I know everybody that belongs to a covenant circle, and I think there's 6 or 7 of them in the church now, everybody that belongs will tell me, I don't want to brag, but my covenant circle's the best. Everybody loves their own covenant circle because everybody feels understood, everybody feels welcome, and everybody feels loved. So it is true, we do have topics, and we also talk about subjects that are important to us. So usually the first half of the covenant circle we will share. We'll have what we call check-in. And the second half is about topics, and those topics are things that are relevant to us as UU members. They can be anything from tell me what your favorite food is, to what did you do in the summertime when you were a child, to things like, discovering and acknowledging our own gifts. Faith in the future. How does our UU faith influence our faith in the future? What do each of the 7 principles mean to us? We can discuss each of the 7 principles for 2 hours. What were our ideals, morals, and beliefs in our younger years, and how have they changed? And what does grace mean to UUs? What does that word mean? There are many meaningful topics, and we find that once we trust each other and we learn to believe that people aren't going to judge our answers and not going to think poorly of us, we come up with a lot of very interesting thoughts about these topics. So I hope you'll consider joining a covenant circle. I highly recommend them. Sign up is still today. The new covenant circles will start the first week in October, so there's just today to sign up, but that's plenty of time if you're here. And if you're at home or someplace else watching, you can contact Joyce Rosenberger, and she will be happy to put you in a covenant circle. So thank you very much.
And I want to offer that covenant circles is one of the best ways to get connected with the congregation in all the ways that we gather, as I continually love to be reminded that small groups of people can indeed transform the world. We can save it like in groups of 10 people or less at a time. It makes such a difference. So I invite you. And we might even have, I think we're going to have a men's covenant group. We have a parents' covenant group is in formation. We have a lot of different opportunities to gather. And now, I want to invite us into our moment as we enter into worship, that we have our first hymn. You know, sometimes I can do this off the top of my head, but every now and then, maybe not. So, from the African American spiritual tradition, we have our opening hymn, "Oh, I Woke Up This Morning."
Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind,
and it stayed on freedom.
Woke up this morning with my mind,
Stayed on freedom.
woke up this morning with my mind,
Stayed on freedom.
hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I was walking and talking with my
Our opening words come from the Reverend Teresa Soto in their book, Spilling the Light, Meditations on Hope and Resilience. Some people are used to keeping rules. Don't cross the street when the light is red, only sensible. It turns out that keeping rules isn't the same as keeping covenant, which asks us, instead of keeping a bright line, to keep our promises. To what have we promised ourselves? To this moment in time and place, to this community, and even tenderly interconnected this planet. We promise ourselves to the idea that we are each and all human beings. We promise that there is something moving between us that we cannot tame and cannot measure. The chalice is a reminder that what flame we keep inside us cannot light the way. The light must spill to shine. The thing is, you must be yourself, unadulterated, shedding the willingness to journey alone as though you were made of something hard and unforgivable. You are human. You belong right here, right now. And together we will chase away the sickness, the secrets, and leave only the open possibility that the future is a space for growth.
Our chalice lighting today is entitled Building the Possible. May this flame cast its light toward the coming days, reminding us that the future is not simply a place we're going, but a place we're creating. The path of new possibilities will not be found, but made. A new world is waiting to be built. May our time together light the way.
And now let us turn to our hymn by the Reverend Mary Gregolia, I Know This Rose Will Open.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. 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 I know my fear will burn away. I know this rose will open. 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 I know my fear will burn away. I know this rose will open. 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 I know my fear will burn away. I know this rose will open. 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 I know this rose will open.
Good morning. We are the Universalist Unitarian Church of Peoria. In a world that too often divides people, I think one of our most important roles in today's world is to be open to and respect the worth and dignity of all beings. Today's simple story by Gail E. Pittman is about the kind of church that does just that. It is called A Church for All. Sunday waking. Day is breaking. Let us go to our church for all. Church bells ringing, joyful noises, choir singing, laughing voices, candles glowing, banners flowing. Come enter our church for all. Poor and wealthy, plain and dressy, all embracing, spirit gracing, each one at our church for all. Bodies wiggling, mommies reading, children giggling, daddies pleading, toddlers flailing, babies wailing. There's room at our church for all. Hands receiving, hands connecting, hearts believing, hearts accepting. Feel the Spirit? Can you hear it? It's here at our church for all. May we truly be a church for all, both inside and outside these walls. May we live by our UU principles and be a voice for love, caring, and justice in our world. Our world needs us. So be it.
Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part of the love you give. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part I seek. Let me be part of the love. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part I seek. Let me be part of the love. Open my heart to all that I seek. Let me be part I seek. Let me be part of the love you give.
From the Reverend Lisa Friedman. We touch the floor to remember that wherever we bring our best self is holy ground. We reach for the sky to remember that we are part of a mystery bigger than ourselves. We hold hands to remember that we need one another and that we are part of one human family. We join voices to remember that we each have a gift to offer the world and to use it in making the world a better place. This is the time for the sharing of joys and sorrows, names and milestones in the congregation. And we have two for today. I'll start with I'll start with the joy. Congratulations to Anthony Boudreau, who won Employee of the Month for September. So, congratulations, Anthony. And now we also have a sorrow. And our sorrow is for Bill Ordaz and Tim Harold, their grandson Lachlan, who has COVID. And so we'll offer our hopes and prayers for a quick recovery, and that the whole family stays well as well. Let me offer one more moment to share all the joys and sorrows, the names and milestones that are among us, that live in our hearts, that are certainly in our lives, and that may or may not be spoken aloud. There is so much that is in us, within us, and around us. Let us hold this time in our collective hearts. Let us pause together. Amen. I want to offer a message, a reading from the late Howard Zinn, who was a 20th century radical historian, author, teacher, activist, and also the son of poor Jewish immigrants who, as he said, always had to stay one step ahead of the landlord. And he says, "To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion and sacrifice and kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents, now. And to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, it is itself a marvelous victory. It is itself a marvelous victory." So says Howard Zinn. And let us enter into a time of reflection and meditation with music. For the past 18 months and more, we have had this unwanted, involuntary curriculum called a pandemic. On this global scale, we have been asked to do extraordinary things with our lives, most often just staying still and staying away from each other. And how that has impacted every aspect of our lives has been profound, beginning as far back as the winter of last year, of the previous year. It's been so long, I'm losing track. On this global scale, we have shared this experience, even though every experience has been different for each of us. As we are entering into this, as we're continue to feel our way, I am reminded about how way back months ago, even at that moment, we were starting to say, what will be different? What will be revealed? What will be new and changed because of this experience? What will be the new normal? How might the world be different on the other side? And for each of us and for us in Unitarian Universalism, what is our part of that new path? So I want to begin to explore that. And in doing so, I ended up actually beginning with the sermon from last week. So this ended up being a two-part kind of conversation. Now, last week's I talked a lot about the history, our past chapter in Unitarian Universalism of the Transcendentalists, those of Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Margaret Fuller, Theodore Parker, and so many more. So this is kind of a two-part separated by 150 years of history, but we're bringing it in. We have had this legacy that we are exploring. Because what we inherited from the Transcendentalists, among other things, planted the seeds of the strength and the opportunities we have, as well as some of the challenges to overcome. But let me begin. From very early in our pandemic, those of us who examine the social condition and advocate for individual worth, for justice, and for more just economic systems could see that much was going to appear and be revealed in this time, because everything had to stop and shift, including how we worked, how we played, how we did education, everything. So much was revealed. But also, not just from the pandemic, but so much was also revealed in the course of the year, in particular in 2020, and then continuing on into this year as well. Our social concerns that may have been normal for other people, but were not actually okay or right or just, such as police violence against Black, Indigenous folks, and people of color. We had the Black Lives Matter rallies. Remember those? Let's not forget those. We had legal struggles in prosecuting those who killed Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, and more. May they all who have died in this past 18 months in such conditions, may they all rest in power, and may they not be forgotten either. We've had the impact on those who've lost jobs or childcare, or who remained at work because they had to and were afraid of bringing this illness home to their families, and also how many, in fact, did. We have had the upheaval of our systems of support. No school, which didn't just mean no in-person education for children, but it also meant no meals for people who were food insecure. There was not seeing friends and family. There was the loss of the informal, cobbled-together systems of childcare, and loss of school and purpose for older youth and those in college, those young adults in college as well. What's been revealed is the gaps of access in technology. The lack of consistent internet made it impossible for children to participate in what teachers and schools could put together. And what was also revealed was how many working conditions were truly not sustainable. How many millions of people were enduring in low wage and long hours in various service industries in particular, and could not get out of the cycle of low income circumstances. And what was also revealed were elected leaders who failed to help address public health needs, and some even tried to benefit politically and economically from it. And of course, millions of people ill, and hundreds of thousands of us just in this country dying. What's also been revealed, what was also revealed, was how much our voices matter when we organize and when we vote. As Howard Zinn reminded us, these actions add up. Oh, yeah, and then there's the climate, but that's another sermon. But early on in the conversation, early on in this, in the course of 2020, this shared upheaval revealed so much and more than what I just offered. But what also people were starting to ask very early on was, how shall we live on the other side not quite knowing what the other side of a pandemic would even be like. We're still in it, but we're getting to figure out, we're having enough space to figure out our lives and our courses. What was? For some people, they had the critical question for themselves of asking, what was killing us slowly that doesn't need to continue? What can we change? So some of the things that have already been seen is that people are finding more freedom and liberty in working at home. We have less environmental impact from commuting. And for some of us, it's been easier to care for our lives, for our families, for our parents, for the adults in our lives, the older adults, for some of us who are also caregivers in that direction as well. People have had a chance to think about what they want to do and start training for maybe a dream or at least a different job. And maybe that's one and the same. What was new information or more in-depth information for some of us about racism and inequity as experienced by historically marginalized communities. That is more known by more of us as well. And what's also known is how much we as human beings need each other. How we are deeply, profoundly, unmistakably, unshakably, irresistibly interdependent. I mean, we have the microcosm of that here of just plain missing church and people, right? Can I get an amen? Amen, just missing the life that's been shared in the ways that we can in just this beloved community. We've had shifts that have impacted our habits and how we live. It's revealed that it takes a while to learn how to do church again. Just church again. You're all doing a great job. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming in on Zoom and on Facebook. And if you're listening to the podcast, we have a podcast too, did you know? All the ways that we enter into this community. Wow, there's a lot to think about with this new normal and what that might mean. It's going to take maybe more than one sermon, I'll just tell you now. But let's focus. Let's focus for a minute here. And I'll tell you what helped me actually come together was the new issue of National Geographic. It came with a story. The cover story is about the power of revolution, and it's about the transformation of transportation into a more electric world. Planes, trains, automobiles based in electricity and not on fossil fuels. Boy, do we need this now. Boy, have we needed this for a long time. And so by itself, that cover story is an exploration of possibility, what is coming into reality in our world. That by itself is compelling. But the article that caught my attention is inside, and it's on pay inequity. The title of it is The Persistence of Pay Inequity by Helena Maria Viramontes. And in it, she talks about the cultural experience of having observed, lived in a powerful, well-bonded, strong Latina family who took pride in work, and that work meant hard physical labor of the service industry, of farming, of picking crops, and so on. But you could take pride in taking care of the family because, the sign of how you're kind of the love language The showing of worth was measured by how much physical work you did. And there is much to be said for that. But what she also was talking about with her family was helping them to understand that sometimes sitting and thinking is work too. And it wasn't until the first time that she could show her mother the check that she received from an article that was published in a magazine. When she showed her mother the check, it was like $25, but it was a real amount of money. Then her mother said, that is work too. We're struggling with valuing each other and each other's work, and how much we are suffering from the legacy of how women's work has been devalued. Women of all racial and cultural groups are progressively lower on the scale when compared to the income per dollar of a white man. For Asian women, it's something in the high 88 cents per $1. For white women, it's somewhere at 82 cents. And for Black women and other folks of color, it's progressively smaller amounts compared to $1. This has been around for a long time. This is nothing new information, but we're quantifying it and measuring it and bringing that out into this moment when we're wondering about the value of each other's worth and work and what might be different. What I appreciated in her article was simply the question of how we need to really choose what we value and make that happen. How to really bring our values to life. And this is what's helping me kind of focus on what is the new normal going forward for a congregation such as this. So let me go back to what we've been inheriting. What are some of our values? A couple of which come from our transcendentalists, right? They were so focused on the direct experience of individuals in the world, that there is nothing between the individual and all that is, that each of us is worthy of having that kind of powerful relationship, that each of us within has that kind of power, and that should be encouraged and nurtured and supported in every one of us. And the seeds of that they planted and lived into led them to being actively part of getting rid of slavery in this country. And we have inherited that theologically and in our sense of service as well. That each of us has a part of the truth. That each of us can be part and parcel of making a difference in the world. That each of us has the capacity to learn more, to be more, to discover more. And that we have this liberty inside ourselves and with each other to be continually engaged in spiritual exploration. That we come together freely in the exercise of this, and in freely choosing to be together, we can do more together. We have this opportunity for ultimate optimism because all that is within us and before us, and that could come from our efforts together. And we connect. We connect with our world in this effort. It's why we resonate with nature and environmentalism, and the reminder that not just individuals are precious, but the whole world is precious. We have this opportunity for the great experiment to be what Unitarian Universalism is a place of possibility, and to continue to remember what has been revealed We are open to continuous revelation. That's one of our hallmarks as a faith. If we don't have a fixed sense of the truth, that there's always more to learn. But we can remember what has been learned and revealed in this past 18 months and not forget in our eagerness to say, boy, I want to go out and enjoy pumpkins and apples with all these people around me once again. I mean, we need that too. We need our going out and enjoying and being with each other. And but not let our eagerness to have kind of life go back the way it was. Don't forget what we're also obligated and connected to and what we have learned. Because this is how, because one of the functions in Unitarian Universalism, we don't just enjoy all this random truth and say, ooh, shiny truth all over the place, this is great. Because, it is. But we also expect ourselves and each other to learn and do something with that, to keep moving forward, to become a place of possibility that also then becomes wise and active, and not just rest in our comfort of knowing that we're wise, right? We get to know the world directly and not take this world for granted. Not forget those early ideas of this pandemic. We retain what we have learned. This is one of the most powerful moments of collective awareness, even as it has been singularly brutal emotionally and physically and systemically. To what shall we choose our being and our values to be committed to and to put into action, as theologian James Luther Adams reminds us, that we must put our values into action for them to actually be worth something. And so we'll continue to raise this question as we go forward, as we're looking at our social justice efforts, as we're looking at what it means to be a community. Worship for the coming month will be continuing to explore not necessarily easy questions, but some real challenges as well, about our history, about how we treat the body, about how we take care of ourselves. Let me close with Ralph Waldo Emerson, who reminds us, within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. When it breaks through our intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affection, it is love. And when it breaks into our actions, the world is renewed. That what we value is made manifest and given form and given life. Our answer to what is the new normal is what we are willing to embody and go forward and make real. Let us take that to heart. Amen. And as the musical duo Ma Muse reminds us, it is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time now that we learn to lead in love. Let us have our music from Ma Muse.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now. And what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Knowing how quickly the flame of truth may be extinguished, how easily the chalice of fellowship broken, let us be vigilant in faith, keep peace in our hearts, and make care for one another. The watchword of our lives together, let us make that care that watchword. And so our light goes out everywhere into the world. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we will never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, of resisting laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we're not alone in the work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on the journey, and we grow ourselves into allies. We help one another get free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free. Our worship is ended. Let our service begin.
Thank you.